Welcome back to the channel. Today we have to do some of the more tedious items. The intercooler and the radiator are off to powder coating. They're getting that heat dissipating coating on them, so when they come back they'll be black and glorious. So I'm waiting on that, but while I'm waiting I have a lot of small things to do. And when I say small, it's not really small. If any of you guys have ever made AN lines, and we showed you a little bit of that in a previous video, but today is going to be not all, but mostly about AN lines, because like we've mentioned in other videos, there is going to be no rubber hoses, no rubber tubing, all the vacuum lines, all the coolant lines, nothing will be rubber. They will all be AN lines. So today, I'm gonna make a lot of those lines. I have to make a -10 that goes from the reservoir, the power steering reservoir, to the pump, and then a -6 from the pump to the power steering rack back there. I got two little fittings down there that you can see, and then another -6 that comes back up to the reservoir. So that's the beginning. Then we also have an oil feed line that goes from this side of the motor, feeds underneath, and then wraps to the top of the turbo right here. So that's where we're gonna make an oil feed line in AN lines. I have the coolant going from this water neck right here. That's gonna come down, wrap around, and enter into here. It will exit here and drop right into that fitting right here. Those are all -6. The oil feed line is a -4. The drain line we already did, luckily. But I also have the vacuum lines from the turbo that goes to the wastegate, that goes to the boost solenoid. All of those are gonna be AN lines. And then from the blow-off valve right here, I have to route an AN line, a -4, to the bottom side of this intake, and then another one to the fuel pressure regulator. So that in its own, those of you that know, you know, that's a lot of work and it's gonna take a long time. So on the back, I have some more AN lines that I need to run. Oh, and I forgot the bottom radiator hose, like the bottom coolant hose, that -20, still gotta make that. But in the back side, I did take out the fuel cell. We have this vent tube right here. It goes right here in this little vent port. So that port has to come out from the fuel cell and kind of coil and then go outside of the car with this little filter on the end of it, just for any type of like fuel vapors. But this rubber tubing, like I said, no rubber tubing. That's just what came with the Radium kit. Well, I'm going to change it over to -10 AN lines. So more cost, more time, more pain in my butt, but it's gonna look so much better. Let's get started. First things first, the upper radiator hose. So we started working on this in the last video. We got this side pretty much cranked down as far as it's gonna go, and now I have this side that I need to finish. So I got it started, but I have this taped up right here. This is like powder coating tape. It's pretty strong and it's thicker, so it reduces the marring that could happen if you put a tool on there and it scrapes up all the pretty black. And those of you that have worked with -20 before, you know that those 1.5" crescent wrenches that open up to 1.5", it's not big enough. And if you wanted one that's big enough, you have to go spend 60 bucks to buy one. Instead, we created our own tool. So, and we did it in aluminum. The good thing about that is softer, less marring. The bad thing is it bends easily. So as I'm tightening this down, I am gonna have to take this off and kind of hammer it back down so it closes, because it'll start to open up with how much force I need to put into this upper radiator hose. So let's get this thing finished. All right, so I have the one side in the vise, and then I'm gonna take that custom tool up here and start to twist it down as tight as I can go. And if you remember in the last video, we have hardly any room to spare on that top radiator tube. So this needs to go down as far as possible.
Yeah. Ooh, let's go. Wait, hold up, Q. Yeah.
All right, and there you have it, the upper radiator hose. I got it down as far as I could for right now. I didn't want to push it too hard just in case that tape slipped and I scraped it. But I'm going to test fit the radiator once it comes in tomorrow and see if we need to squish that up just a little bit. But if you look right here, that is the only part of the tubing. So we have like a 1/4 inch of tubing. The rest is fitting as far as the upper radiator hose. So now I'm just gonna measure for the -6 line. That's gonna be the coolant, one of the coolant lines for the turbo specifically. This line is the return line, so it's gonna come out the side of the turbo here. I'm gonna run it along here, so it's gonna go under that, the catch can tubing. It's gonna run under that and then go down right here onto this fitting.
Feel like I'm at the tippy top of my game, looking down at the rafters. I had to sun these boys, can't leave them bastards. A lot of dudes, just some undercover actress. I don't fall for it, I'm privy to all your tactics. Yeah, so try again.
There's one time. Okay, I got the first part of that -6 for the coolant line going to the turbo done. Now we have to measure out how long we need it to get to the turbo, and hopefully I cut it accurately.
Yeah, invite him in, welcome to the Lion's Den. And I'm Mufasa, big boss in charge of coming in like a bull. You see me raising the stock up, yeah. So baby, you gonna need some patience. I already won, now I'm just making a statement.
All right, and then typically when we find that length, we wanna put some electrical tape on it before we cut it, just to kind of protect the material that's on top of that tubing. Then we take these big choppers and cut it. You could do a cutoff wheel if you want. With how small the -6 is, I don't really need to do a cutoff wheel. So that will suffice. It just kind of squishes that inner lining, that PTFE lining, which makes it a little bit more annoying. So cutoff wheel makes it a little easier, but then I'd have to connect everything. And right now I'm too lazy to get the cutoff wheel set up.
I take a vitamin, yeah, invite him in, welcome to the Lion's Den. And I'm Mufasa, big boss in charge of.
All right, now that we made the line, we can connect it and see how well it fits. I think it might be slightly long. I might have to trim it a little bit, which sucks because I have to take it apart and shorten it. It's gotta be done. All right, and there you have it. I actually ended up having to change this fitting to a 90 instead of that 30 degree, because the 30, it just, even though it's not that much of a angle, or the 60 degree, I'm sorry, it still put it right into the cover here. So this just made it flow a lot smoother. So there's the coolant line, or one of the coolant lines that are going to the turbo. And then we just gotta create the other one. So I got a 90 degree coming off of it right now. It's gonna go under the turbo and pop up right here where you see I have this 150 degree fitting where it's gonna tie into. So it wraps around and connects right there.
Like a bull, you see me raising the stock up, yeah. So baby, you gonna need some patience. I already won, now I'm just making a statement, Damn, baby, why your mans keep hating? You asking about the cake, you here for the celebrations. And I ain't fishing, I ain't really into baiting.
And there you have it. So you got this fitting coming right out of the top of the water neck, looping down and coming up onto this side of the turbo. And then you have it coming out on this side, looping over back into that line there. Okay, 2 lines done. I don't know how many more. A lot. Remember, no rubber. All right, now I have the oil feed line attached here, and that loops down over the top of the coolant line, but that has to go under the motor, back up to that right there, right on the top, which, let's see if we can see it better down here. No, maybe over here. Yeah, there you go. So it's gonna go right on the top there. I just don't have the fitting for it to attach to yet. Otherwise, this would go right on top there. So that's where it's gonna connect to feed the oil under the motor, around and into the turbo right on the top. So now that I have most of that side done, I'm gonna move to this side where I have the power steering reservoir. So the big one, the -10, needs to go to the top of the pump. And then there's a -6 that goes off the bottom of the pump. On the steering rack, I'm pretty sure the one on the right comes up to the reservoir, the one on the left goes to the pump. So that's how I had it last time. Whether that was correct last time, I don't know. Any of you know? Comment down below, let me know if I'm doing it wrong, because that's what I'm gonna do tonight, and hopefully it works. So let's do this -10 line real quick. That'll be the easiest. And those of you that have never done an AN line or created your own AN line, especially PTFE, kind of a bane to my existence. I mean, it's not terrible, but it just very tedious. So this little ferrule, you have to shove it in between that PTFE plastic and the metal in there, and it's a little bit of a tight squeeze. So with this one, typically you have to peel back this rubber lining. So we're gonna do that real quick.
I ain't really into baiting. I know they all wish I take away they make. Yeah, but sorry I'm taking me and my lady mating. She look me in the eyes and tell me how much she loving on my confidence. Yeah, it really shouldn't be no arguments, cause you're now viewing the greatest of all time, saying I can't get better. I promise they all lying on.
And there you go. There's one end of it. Now I just got to measure the length and do that again.
Yeah, that's right. Look, I think it's time you start using your common sense. Everybody watch out, cause the bomb is lit. I got that confidence, that's right. Confidence, yeah.
And there's the other side. So hopefully I measured this correctly and it's going to fit perfectly. Moment of truth. Is the line that I just made going to fit? Let's go from the bottom of the reservoir to the top of the pump there. Oh, it's a little bit long. How big of an issue is that gonna be? All right, so the line fits, but at the sacrifice of tilting that reservoir just a little bit. I don't like that. So what I'm probably going to do, instead of remaking the line, I'm going to drill out the hole that I use to mount the reservoir right here. I'm gonna drill it out a little bit bigger so I can just tilt the top just a little bit so it's nice and straight again. Be tucked in a little bit closer to the bar, which isn't a bad thing, but that worked for a quick little eyeball job. I have the first power steering line put in. Now I need the last two. One coming up to the reservoir from the steering rack and the other one going to the bottom of the pump. It doesn't look like it's a pain in the butt, but it really does suck. Having to shove that ferrule into the line and then threading it perfectly so when you put it in the vise and crank it down, it's not cross-threading. I've done that a couple times and these fittings are not cheap. So if you cross-thread it, you're out money. Okay, 2 more lines on the power steering system. There's a lot of lines, a lot of rubber that you normally see, but remember, no rubber. I've said that I don't know how many times this video. It's not gonna happen. Can't talk me into it. But everything that you can see, no rubber, just AN lines. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one of my old power steering lines, since it's not the same system, not the same setup, and I'm going to utilize it. It's long enough, I'll probably have to trim it just a little bit, maybe. But might as well use what I already have made. But these fittings are not gonna work, they're the wrong angle. So I have to take these fittings off and put the correct fittings on.
Confidence, that's me, hold up, yeah, I'm sorry if I...
There we go. One fitting swapped out. So now we need to make sure that this line from the bottom of the power steering pump is going to make it to the steering rack. This is my old line, so it should be right about the perfect distance, but it is being routed a little different. I mean, it gets there, but I think I need definitely a different angle on this fitting. This fitting should probably be a 90. You know what? Maybe I'll flip them around. That top one doesn't necessarily have to be a 90. If it's this long, maybe it'll be good having a little bit of that slack. Let's flip it and see if that works.
My brain move a little faster than...
All right, so that actually worked pretty decent. I don't know, the only thing I worry about is the line is kind of rubbing on the subframe right here. Maybe I can put some sort of spacer in there. That might work. If I want to play it a little bit safer, I need to lengthen that line a little bit. But I'm so tempted to keep it. Shouldn't move. That line shouldn't move. Subframe's not moving, that line shouldn't move. Should be okay. But you don't want to risk blowing a power steering line. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's just a pain in the butt. Let's make the other one, and then we'll decide. All right, so I am missing some fittings. I don't remember if I mentioned that in the beginning of the video, but on the oil feed line that goes to the turbo, I do need a certain fitting that mounts there where I can connect the line to. I've sent Jaren out to find those fittings, so I have a couple different fittings that I need. Jaren went out to look for them. It's been a while. I'm not sure what's taking so long, so I'm hoping that he isn't lost or went to the wrong spot, or if people are just out of them, but I haven't seen him for a bit. So hopefully he's back soon so we can finish this up.
Okay, so Jared sent me out to get some AN fittings, and I may or may not have gotten lost. I don't know where I'm gonna find AN fittings here. Supposedly there might be some in a castle, right? Or maybe there's some in that church up there. We're gonna find out. Anyways, wish me luck. Okay, so they didn't have AN fittings. I checked. So we looked around for a couple of days, couldn't find anything, but we assume, I mean, come on, one of these has gotta have some AN fittings, right? You'd think, or maybe even like this big church looking thing. Maybe it'll have some AN fittings. We'll find out. Churches didn't have anything, so we're gonna go all the way up on that wall. See, way up there. If we go high enough, then maybe we'll see a place that has fittings. Who knows? Who knows? Or we can keep trying. Lots of little shops and stuff. One of these is bound to have them, right? So many stairs. Well, maybe going up high didn't really help looking for AN fittings. I guess we'll go back down and see. Maybe we don't find any today. I guess we'll have to try more tomorrow. But at least it's pretty.
All right, moment of truth. Is this going to fit? So, connect it on the bottom first, just because I think that'll be the more difficult one. Oh, baby. Like a glove. Oh yeah, that's pretty. All right, there you have it. You have all the lines run for the power steering components. That beautiful fitting on top, coming out of that, going to the steering rack, up to the reservoir. Everything is where it needs to be on this side. And pretty much everything on this side. I am waiting for those fittings for Jaron, so as soon as he gets back, we can finish those up. But figured I'd show you kind of how you make those AN lines and the approach that we're taking with this, having everything be AN lines. I gotta show you this again, even though I already did. My upper radiator hose, which is basically all fitting and like a 1/4 inch of hose. That's gonna be rough to install, but it's gonna be cool. It's gonna look good. That's it for today. I need Jaron to get back, so if anybody's seen him, let me know. Thank you guys for sticking around for this one. A little bit more of a educational. You get to watch me make those AN lines and kind of see how the motor's coming together with those lines and where we're placing them and routing them. Just makes everything look so clean. No rubber laying everywhere in the engine bay. So if you guys like the video, give me a big thumbs up. Hit that subscribe down below. There's a lot coming with this build. There's already been a lot and there is so much more to come. The next video, we should have the intercooler and the radiator back from powder coating. It's getting that heat dissipating coating put on it, so it should have a little bit of a black tint to it to match the theme. Once we get that back, I can make that bottom radiator hose so I know the length, and we can put everything back in. I can put the bumper back on, the fenders back on, I can get all the wiring done up front. As soon as we get those, it's like a big step in progress. And then when Jaron gets back with those fittings, we finish those lines, then we can start making the exhaust. So full 4-inch titanium exhaust with a 5-inch tip. Lots of excitement coming. So I will see you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful evening.
Sometimes it's your blood that turn into blood suckers, yeah. And I'm on a big mission. My whole team got a plate up in the kitchen, yeah. I'm talking everything, I make all the fixings, yeah.